About 3 years ago, I started building the slowest fast car, or the fastest slow car, I can't remember. I wanted to build a land speed racing car, a car that does nothing but go as fast as possible in a straight line. But I wanted to do it using the smallest engine. Land racing has lots of different classes for engines and cars, so I picked the fastest type of car, a streamliner, with the slowest engine, a naturally aspirated 500 cubic centimeter gasoline-powered engine. Or, in my case, a 1 liter with half of the cylinders deactivated. This project was supposed to be finished a while ago, but my ability to complete a project on time is about as bad as my ability to correctly predict how long a project will take to complete. But the car is ready to run, and we will race it at the final El Mirage Dry Lakebed Race event of the year. And everything will go well, with the exception of one major car failure. So join me as I go super fast. Last time I said that the car was ready to race, and a lot of you didn't believe me, but it is ready to race. There were a few small things that we needed to do to improve it, to make it better. The first was to make sure we would pass the safety inspection. One of the inspectors saw my videos and offered to stop by and check out the car before the event to make sure we were all good to go. This was very helpful. Shout out to Kiwi Steve for stopping by. We had a few small issues like the seatbelt adjustments and the location of the parachute pulls, nothing we couldn't easily fix. There were also a few improvements we noticed that could be made while I was getting in and out of the car. The canopy opening was a little limiting, making it hard to get in and out, and the canopy itself had some sharp, stabby points on it. We fixed both of these and also added an air blower for the driver. This blows air into my helmet, which helps keep dust down inside the helmet and also helps keep the car from feeling claustrophobic. I never feel claustrophobia normally, but this car is super tight, and with the belts and helmet, it does take some getting used to, and the fan really helps. We did a couple other non-safety things, like remember how I had a threaded hole in the top of the engine cover so I could screw in a handle and take it on and off? Well, we added one to the nose to help with getting that on and off. We also needed a good way to get a camera on the outside of the car without disturbing airflow too much. We didn't want a blocky cube like a typical action camera. Dave suggested that we use the Insta360 on the tail lying on its side. The two lenses point to either side of the car, but the software stitches the video together, making the seam invisible, so this was perfect. I used the Insta360 X4 on my motorcycle adventure a couple of months ago, and I loved it. It survived sleet, rain, and a water crossing misadventure, so I reached out to Insta360 and asked if they wanted to support this video. They sent me a couple more cameras, and we set them up. I added one in the cockpit to see out the front and to see the driver. I also printed a cage for the one on the vertical stabilizer to help direct air around it, so the drag penalty is basically nothing. So shout out to Insta360, highly recommended camera for adventures and racing. We also added a push bar to the front of the 4Runner. Last time we used the RV, but we can't use the RV this time because of reasons. Don't worry about it. We're not talking about the RV. We are talking about the trusty, always reliable 4Runner that never breaks down. I screwed together some 2x4s to attach the push plate to the 4Runner, reinforced with some steel I had lying around. It's not great, but it is good enough. With that, the last thing to do was get the race car on the trailer, which was actually kind of an ordeal. The car has been on sawhorses in the garage for a few weeks and the trailer in the backyard. There's not a ton of room to maneuver around, but fortunately, I decided to put a trailer hitch on my smart car a while back. Remember the smart car? I still have that. We have some fun plans coming up for that in the near future, but for now, it is here to help move a trailer around. With the trailer in place, we did have a couple other trailer items to finish up, specifically fenders. I had Send Cut Send make me some parts a while back that I welded into fenders, but I never attached them, so we did that. We also added eye bolts to strap the car down, which I don't love, but they will work for now. You'll notice I didn't get the car painted yet, which means we didn't get a chance to put on all the stickers that you sent in, but we did decide to put a few on. We each picked a couple that we liked for the tail. I went for Nixon for President and this German tourism sticker that about 40 people sent in. We also added a Do Not Lick sticker right where the ham sandwich is. I'm sure you all remember the ham sandwich that we shoved in the carbon fiber vertical stabilizer. Well, don't lick it. And with that, it was off to the races out of Los Angeles and into the desert. Tech inspection was Friday and was a breeze, mostly because we basically did it 2 days before, and then was keeping warm around the fire into the night. The driver's meeting starts just after 7 a.m., but we wouldn't race for a few hours. The line to get to the start is ordered by how many points you've racked up for the season, and since I hadn't run the car at all this season, I got to start at the back. By the time we were in line, the sun was up, warming us up and heating up the vertical stabilizer enough that it started to weep ham juice. Do not lick the ham juice. I was a little worried about the battery that powers the winch that lifts the car on and off the trailer. It has a solar panel to charge it mounted on one of the cases, so I flipped it up and pointed it at the sun. The starting line curves, and while it is a broad curve, my car has the turning radius of an aircraft carrier, so we waited until the line straightened out before offloading. We did a couple more last-minute upgrades to the car. One of the tech inspectors noted that it was the same color as the dirt and suggested we add some color, so we gave it a couple of blue tape racing stripes. I also added a footrest. My legs are just kind of dangling around doing nothing, so I thought a foam footrest would be nice and also soft enough not to cause any problems in a wreck. We cut it up, taped it up, and shoved it down in the footwell, and I got in to test it out. All good. After pushing the car for a bit, we noticed a rather unsettling clanking noise coming from the rear. Turns out the wheel closeouts we had made for the rear were touching the chain. This is not good. Somehow the aluminum got bent in just enough for the chain to catch it and bend it around more. So we fixed it with a giant flathead screwdriver, and I will fix it more permanently later with an actual saw. Unfortunately, this meant I had to very quickly get ready to go since the line was moving fast. I got suited up and strapped in, and pretty much right when I was ready to go, the starter told us that the next lane was having issues and asked if we were ready. We said yes, she gave the signal, and I took off. The run went perfect. Well, almost perfect. There were two issues. I'll get around to the second one in a minute, but the first one is that I took off too early. I was supposed to get a push start. Remember that push bar we put on the front of the 4Runner? Well, Dave was supposed to use that to push me up to 20 or 30 miles an hour before I took off. But I saw the go signal from the starter and I just went for it. I was amped up for the run, and as soon as I saw her give the go, I punched it. Dave was surprised. The starter was surprised. After about 2 seconds, I remembered that I was supposed to get a push start, and I was surprised. But I was off and accelerating, so I just went for it. This was not a top speed run. This was a licensing and shakedown run. This was the first time the car had been driven with a body. At Bonneville, without a body, the car was wildly unstable at speed. It was aerodynamically about as bad as it gets. We also changed the caster in the front and a bunch of other little things, so I didn't give it full throttle. I was accelerating slowly and feeling it out the whole time. And it was great. Way better, a lot more stable, and the faster I went, the better it felt. The dirt was pretty torn up since 100 cars had already gone before me, and it did get worse toward the end, but I felt pretty confident the whole time. I could definitely take this thing past 200 and feel confident in it. Except for one small thing, dust. This is a common problem out here. The wheels kick up dust and sometimes it collects in the cabin, making it hard for the driver to see. You can see it shimmering in the sunlight at the beginning of the run. As I got towards the end, it started to collect on the windshield, but only in the middle. I could still easily see the cones out the side, and I could see them in the front, just not as well. Remember that threaded hole we made to make it easier to get the nose on and off? Well, that is right between the front tires, and underneath that, the front tires are churning up a chaotic dust cloud, and on top, the fast-moving air is causing a low-pressure area that just sucks the dust right out. Then it goes directly into the center of the windshield and also the fresh air inlet for the driver, so we'll have to plug that threaded hole when we're not using it. Pretty cool to see this sharp line of dust coming out of the hole here and making its way down the car. And we also got some flow visualization courtesy of the ham juice weeping out of the stabilizer. That there is some nice attached laminar flow. The Insta360 was awesome at capturing the run. I'm super happy with this setup and this camera, and I'm stoked that Insta360 is supporting the channel. The X4 has been super easy and reliable in some pretty abusive environments. I'm 100% Insta360 with my action cameras now. I got my first one for Bonneville a couple of years ago and got some great shots with the invisible selfie stick. The big benefit of the X4 is that I can let it capture everything, literally the whole sphere around it in 8K video, and then I can go back and select the exact view I want. And then I can have it pan around, zoom, tilt, whatever. I don't have to be a camera person. I can do my thing and also be the camera operator later. The X4 has excellent flow state stabilization. This run was very bumpy since I don't have suspension, and the camera smoothed it all out nicely, and kept the horizon level with 360-degree horizon lock. And they're tough. I don't have to be delicate with the camera, which I really appreciate. For next year, I'm going to print another cage that really blends it in with the rear wings, so it should be aerodynamically invisible. If you're looking for a camera, I highly recommend these cameras. They are currently having a Black Friday sale, so click the link in the description and check out the cameras and the Black Friday deals. I'm also really impressed with the aerodynamics of this car. You can see from this video that the trail of dust is super small. Contrast that with some of the other cars that leave a really big dust trail, and you can see how small of a hole my car is punching through the air. I'll be using Air Shaper in the near future to fine-tune some of the details, so stay tuned for that. Overall, this was an excellent run. Everything worked how it was supposed to. There were a few small lessons to learn, but the car was fantastic. The race car was fantastic. The other car, not so much. I drove my trusty 4Runner over to the timing trailer to get my new license, and as I was backing out, I heard a noise. At first, I thought someone had parked a motorcycle behind me and I backed into it, but then I saw this on the ground. This is supposed to be inside one of the front CV joints, and the front half shaft is supposed to be connected to the front differential. Something is wrong. I called the guys over to bring some tools and get some opinions. Not sure why the front half shaft crapped itself out the side of the differential, but we weren't going to get it back together, so we had to figure out how to take it apart more, and what to do after that. On a lot of vehicles, the outside CV has to be bolted into the hub to keep everything from coming apart, otherwise the wheel will just fall off. We got the shaft out, but had to figure out how to disassemble it to get the outer part bolted back into the hub, otherwise the 4Runner could become a 3Runner while driving at highway speeds. The good thing about having a YouTube channel is that when things don't go your way, you can usually turn it into content. Sometimes content is unwelcome, like this predicament, and ejecting a corner of the 4Runner on the highway would have been very unwelcome content. We tried a half a dozen ways to get the CV joint apart, basically just bashing it like cavemen, until somebody went and borrowed a serious problem solver. I didn't bring any cutoff wheels or large sockets because I didn't plan on doing any major work. If anything big was wrong with the race car, the plan was to just go home. I didn't expect anything to happen to the tow vehicle, especially the infinitely reliable and perpetually unmaintained 4Runner. One of the moderators from the Superfast Matt Discord, Alex, helped out and got to take home part of the CV as a souvenir. So if you ever see me struggling and you come over to help, I will show my appreciation by giving you my trash. We got it back together and torqued the nut precisely to spec. Pretty easy fix once we found the right tools, and it only cost me one pair of pants. The weird thing about this failure is that you don't usually see half shafts fail like this. Usually the boot gets torn, grease comes out, water gets in, and it gets all rusted, and then it fails. This has plenty of grease. Also, there's not usually enough room for the half shaft to even make its way out like this. Some of you have already figured out what's happened, and I gotta be honest here, I am shocked that none of us figured this out while we were messing around with the half shaft. Truth be told, we were all exhausted, too much sun, not enough sleep, and we were just trying to get the shaft out so we could limp home. You can pause here for a moment if you want to play Spot the Problem at home. The problem is this. This is supposed to be here, and there's supposed to be a bolt holding it all together. The lower ball joint bolts to this bracket, and this bracket bolts to the upright with these two fasteners. I had one. The other one is just gone. I think we didn't notice this because somewhere in the process of jacking up the corner and removing the tire, the lower bracket spun around where it was supposed to be, so it wasn't quite as obvious. You can see it here in the proper place, sans bolt, just as we were installing the outer CV housing. It is a bit embarrassing that we didn't realize what was wrong earlier. We were not in root cause analysis mode. We were in Band-Aid mode. We were just trying to get home. Perhaps more embarrassing is that whatever genius put these bolts in didn't use any thread locker, and that genius was me. It was me. My bad. I replaced the lower control arms a while back, and while I'm pretty sure I torqued the bolts, I didn't see any thread locker on them. I actually might not have even torqued it down. I don't know how one could have worked its way out. All I know is that I cannot correctly do simple maintenance on a car, and also I just went 150 miles per hour in a car that I built in my garage. The fix was pretty easy. I just bought a new bolt and slathered it with enough Loctite to stop the rotation of the earth. I also replaced the other bolt as well, since it was taking all of the load at least all the way home and probably longer. I also slathered that with thread locker, completely ignoring the fact that I have to remove both of these in the near future so I can put a new CV axle back in. But that is a problem for future Matt, and we all know how much I care about that guy. There was one issue that I haven't talked about. Remember how I said that this wasn't a top speed run? It was a shakedown and licensing run? Well, I messed up on the licensing part. You can't just come out here and go as fast as possible. You have to license up. You have to go between 100 and 150 before they let you go above 150. You have to go between 150 and 175 before you can go faster than that. Well, I went too fast. I was supposed to keep it below 150. I went 157. They were nice enough to give me the license anyway after a stern talking to. What do you expect from a guy named Superfast Matt? But I will keep it in line next time, I promise. And actually, next year it doesn't even matter because we're switching to 500 cc's. Next year is the year that we complete the goal we set out to achieve in the beginning, the fastest car with the slowest engine. The plan is to deactivate 2 of the cylinders. We haven't done that yet because we're trying to minimize variables before we're ready, but I think we're ready. That record at El Mirage is 159 miles per hour, only 2 miles per hour faster than I just went with twice the engine. The outright record is 202, which will be more difficult, but I feel pretty confident. I did not do this run at full power, not even close. In fact, I looked at the data and at no time was I at more than 38% throttle. The throttle is big, so 38% throttle is about 70% power. But even then, there was lots of speed left in it when I crossed the finish line, so I think I can do it. Tune in about 6 months from now when we drag this thing back out at the last minute and frantically get ready to go pretty fast with a really small engine. Again, thanks to Insta360 for supporting the channel. I do really love these cameras. They make my job so much easier. If you click the link in the description, you'll get a free year of Insta360 Flexicare on top of the holiday discount. Used to be that you had to impress people to get people to watch your show, but now all you have to do is impress the algorithm. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It actually helps the channel a lot. And of course, all hail the algorithm.